Day and salutations to all the graduates, your proud families, Mr. Mayor, and distinguished guests. It's an honor to be here, and more of a bizarre feeling when the kid that introduced you feels like he was only in 7th grade last year, and now here we are today. So I'm sure your parents feel the same way. Time just flies so fast. You know, when I was a kid, my favorite set of picture books was the Berenstein Bears. Anyone ever read that? Not the TV show. The TV show came later. I'm talking about OGs of the books, right? Now, everyone in the city of Bears that they lived in had different names. There was, Grizzly was the mailman, there were other names like this. But that family of Berenstein Bears, do you remember their names? Mama Bear, Papa Bear, Sister Bear, Brother Bear, right? Those are their names. Now, if they went by that at home, that's one thing. Everyone called them that. Everyone in the city called them Mama Bear, Papa Bear, Brother Bear, and Sister Bear. So then I had some questions when I was a kid. To me, is that the same name they have throughout their lives? Like when Brother Bear gets married, does his wife call him Brother Bear? That sounds pretty weird. Now, they retain one singular identity their entire lives. That's stamped on them. Now, one part of adulting is we assume various labels and identities throughout our lives. Just because we're graduates does not mean we stop being students. Just because we become parents ourselves does not mean we stop being children to our own parents or siblings to our own brothers and sisters. The challenge of adulting is, how do I prioritize these labels and ensure that I'm giving it my all to every single one of these relationships that I have? Now, it's said that when God first made humans and beings, He gave each being 20 years to live. So there was a human, there was a dog, there was a donkey, and there was an owl, and He gave each of them 20 years to live. Now, then they kind of begged for more. They said, we want more time, we don't think 20 years is enough. So they said, okay, let's up the ante to about 30 years then. Now, the dog and the donkey and the owl were smart. They said, look, now that we got 30, we're good, but we don't really think we need 30. Let's cut it down by a little bit. So they said to the human, do you want some more years? And of course, us as humans were the most greedy species out there. Humans said, yes, bring it on, I'd like some more years. So they each gave 20 years. That's why dogs, donkeys, and owls live about 10 years there. So for the first 30 years of humans' life, we actually live like humans. Exploring the world, trying new things, figuring out what our likes and dislikes are, more importantly, what is our calling, what can we give the world. That's how we spend the first 30 years of our life. Now the next 20 years, the life of a dog. Working for that sadistic boss, driving kids around everywhere, and you give them everything you have. You don't give them the new iPhone, and they say, Mom and Dad, you're not doing it right. Have we said that to our own parents? Not you guys, I'm talking about other kids, right? You guys are great. I'm talking about other kids that say that. That's the next 20 years. 20 years after that, life of a donkey, where you cannot seem to catch a break. You're saving up for retirement, aggrandizing as much as you can for your legacy, and you seem to be stressed out all the time. And then if you're lucky to make it to the next 20 years of your life of an owl. An owl just sits on a branch watching the world go by. There's nothing else that it does. Now, I'm not saying this to make you feel sad, but to ask you one simple question. Does life have to be this way? Can I take advantage, find a calling, find something that I love to do, and simply roll with the punches? Because no matter how much we plan to have life be a certain way, there are always things that we don't account for. Like on graduation day, so many of you look so handsome, so beautiful, did your hair so nicely, and I see that every single person's struggling with that cap. It messes up your hair. No matter how well you did your hair, it's ruining it, right? I'm seeing a lot of people nodding here. Yep, unaccounted for things. Things like that come up in life as well. There's no way we can stop it. Now, in the Hindu faith, there's one tradition where upon graduation and entering the so-called real world, students are given a charge that's very specific. And one part of this charge is, from here on out, you are not just a member of your family or your small community, but a member of something much, much larger than yourselves. Where the responsibility does not just lie in providing for myself and my near and dear ones, but what is my responsibility for society? Now, there's two terms I'd like to give you from the Sanskrit language. One term is svabhava, and the other term is svadharma. Svabhava is what is our inherent nature, our likes and dislikes, our tendencies, the way we view things, the way we handle stress. This is unique to each and every person. Even when we have siblings or set of twins, born at the same time, to the same set of parents, same opportunities, hopefully given the same amount of love. When all of this is held equal, how different are you and your siblings still? In the way you react and respond to stress, in what your interests are, in what you focus on in life. This is nothing but that svabhava, that inherent nature that we cannot always explain, but overtakes our personality. Now, svadharma is, what is that personalized beauty based on that svabhava that we take up? I mean, what is it that makes me feel useful in the world? What is it that the world needs at this time? What am I talented in? What do I find that pure joy in doing? Now, the sad truth is, many people go their entire lives without realizing what that svabhava is. They find themselves unhappy. They find themselves aimlessly trying to find joy and purpose in what they do, but they don't seem to find it. Now again, the Hindu scriptures address why this is the case. If we see duty as a burden, life will never be fruitful. It's like the person who wanted to get married and have kids, right? He has 5 kids. And then the moment he has them, he starts going and doing the math, saying, okay, formula costs this much. And then he goes on and says, okay, after that, clothes cost this much. And the way kids grow, new shoes like every 6 months it seems. He finally comes to how much it costs to send his kids to college. And then he says, man, what have I done? Do we know what we're embarking on before we do it? I recently read a really good book. It was called Can't Even, the Millennial Burnout Generation. Where more and more, and I'm much older than you, like at least a decade or so I'm not really part of your generation, but the millennial generation feels so much stress right now in making ends meet or really achieving the true purpose they want to achieve. But the study that this book went in also found one more thing. The ensuing generation, after the millennials, what you are a part of, they have far more clarity and acceptance of life than previous generations did. As much as BuzzFeed will tell you how entitled you are and what your generation is, you are the most intelligent generation that has ever graced this earth. Your tech savviness, your empathy towards understanding how the world works, your kindness in dealing with others, this is one of the greatest strengths of your generation. Now, one thing I'm jealous about being here. I graduated from Allen High School more than a decade ago. My graduating class had 1,200 kids in it. So I'm sitting there at graduation, names are being called, and by the time you get to the Q's and the S's, you're like, man, when am I gonna go? More sadly though, I didn't know 3/4 of the people walking on stage. And they're supposed to be my fellow graduates. Now, in this kind of an intimate setting of a smaller class, I'm sure you all know each other, and the others know much more about you than you ever wanted them to. That's what happens in a small community. But I'd say keep these friendships alive. Because what happens when you get to college? That first semester, you want to keep in touch with your high school friends no matter where you are, so when that first Thanksgiving break comes, all of you meet. And then spring semester, spring break is there for a week. One person in the friend group is blessed with a very special friend that they've met when they get to college, so spring break is spent with their family, so one person drops. By the time summer rolls around, someone's traveling, someone's got a job, a few more friends drop off. Before you know it, you're just calling your friends on your birthday. So one part of assuming this label now of graduate, being out on your own, is how do we preserve these kinds of relationships that we have? Never forget, one of the most important relationships you'll ever have is that of a son or a daughter or a grandson or a granddaughter. Don't end up calling these people in your life. Even if it's just a call and say, hey, I'm doing good, how are you? Even if it's a phone call, make that effort. It pays dividends in the future. There's no regrets that way. So this graduating class of 2025, there's really no words of wisdom I can offer. Because people have been giving you that this entire year probably. When they're not badgering you about where you're going to school, it's giving you some kind of unwanted advice. So I won't do that to you, but I'll just say this. Never leave any experience unexperienced. Never live thinking, man, if I did do that, coulda, shoulda, woulda, those are the three saddest words in the English language. And as you traverse with your swabba, what your nature is, figuring out your swabba, what your calling is, always remember to do it with a smile, and everything will be fine. Thank you for having me here today. Wonderful to address you all in Westlake. Thank you.